Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to go through the last part of regex pattern, which is regex option prefixes. Strictly speaking, this is not a regex pattern per se. However, it's something very useful to know when you want to tune your regex pattern match using different options to your needs. So if you're interested in this topic, please continue watching. Alright, welcome back. So let's get started. And here in my second tab, I have the list of all the regex option prefixes in AutoHotkey that I'm going to go through today with you. There are more, and the rest of them can be found in this URL down here. These are the ones that I found particularly useful, so I'm going to go through these with you only. And so let's go through one by one, and then I'll show you the examples later. So I convert your match pattern case insensitive. So if you've got capital letters and small letters, this makes it ignore capital and small letters and performs matches across both. M represents multiline match, and multiline match means if you have a multiple line string and you're using circumflex or the $sign to find matches in the beginning or at the end of the string, the multiline option allows you to find the matches in the beginning and at the end of each line instead of the entire string. And the following three are some options that you need to mandatorily provide together with the multiline match in order to perform the multiline matches. I'll go through this a little bit later, a little bit deeper in the example later. So P makes the searches to return position and length of the matched term, and I'll also go deeper into this later. And O converts the matched output into a match object. So you can do what you would normally do with objects by converting your matched output into a match object instead of a pseudo array. And the following two are some examples of how you can combine multiple option prefixes in AutoHotkey. So here, like I explained, if you want to use the multi-line match, then you need to either put in any of these three in order to get that working. So you have a prefix combination like that, and this is also another way to apply multiple option prefixes. So you're converting your matched output into an object as well as performing a case insensitive search. Now before we begin, I just wanted to show you, in every language I think it's slightly different how you perform the regular expression of how you apply the options in regular expression. In our case in AutoHotkey, we apply the option prefixes, but it looks like in C# you apply the regex options before you perform the regex pattern match. So it gets inserted as a single line of code, whereas in AutoHotkey we just put a option prefix in our regex pattern itself. Now you can also do in C#, it looks like, I think it's this one, an inline option change in this way. But you can also do this in AutoHotkey, and I explained this to you in my previous video. So if you want to know how to change the options inline, go watch the previous video and it will be explained there. So let's get started with the case insensitive option. Here is an example. This is a pretty straightforward one, so I don't need to go into too much detail. And so I've got this string and I'm performing a search for color where we can either have a U or R, and in this manner this is not going to be able to find this one because we have put in a small letter C, and therefore it's going to look for a small letter C instead of the capital letter. And so if you provide an option prefix of I in this manner, this is going to find the, gotta comment this out, this is going to find the match. The second line code is going to find a match. So the first one returns 0 because it didn't find any matches. The second one matched. Right, so multi-line string, this is going to be useful if you are using circumflex or the $sign to find the matches in the beginning or the end of your string. Here is my string. It's multi-line, and what I'm trying to do here is I've got a word called line that I'm going to convert into found encapsulated in square brackets. I know I haven't covered regex replace, and that's gonna be my next video, but for the purpose of demonstration I had to use regex replace so I can show you what I have achieved through this line of string or line of code. So here is our multiple line option prefix, and what A represents is A represents both of N and R. So N is the line feed, right? So backtick and N represents line feed in AutoHotkey, and backtick and R represents carries return. So these are two different types of line breaks. Now if you put in, say for example, an N here, then you're just going to break the lines by the new line. So if you have carries return line break, that's not gonna work. Whereas if you put in the carries return, it's not going to work well with line breaks that are line feed instead of carries return. So the safer approach is to put in an A, which is considered any type of new lines. So line feed and carries return both will be captured, and therefore this is my option prefix for performing searches in multi-line string. And I've got the pattern here, and then I've got the $sign at the end, which means I want to find this pattern only at the end of each sentence in the string. So if I go ahead and run this, I'm going to get the result back out like that. And so as you can see, I have many instances of the word line occurring in my string. However, what's replaced is only the ones at the end of each sentence. So if I take this option out and run the script again, what I'm gonna get is nothing replaced, and that's because I have an S here. If I remove this and run it again, then I'm gonna get the last instance of the word line replaced with found, and it's not replacing the word line that occurs at the end of each of the lines in the string, but just the last one inside the string. So when you have a multiple line string, then you need to provide that option. And going back to our previous results, we have got this replaced with found, and that replaced with found, and this one is not replaced with this replaced word, and that is because we need line occurring at the end of the sentence, and we have lines here, so this S is blocking it. That's why the last one is not converted as well. Now, so if you want to do this in the beginning of the line, that's the way to do it. So it's basically the same string. So if I go ahead and run this, and the only difference is that there used to be a $sign here, whereas now we have the circumflex up at the end of the regex pattern. And what we have found is in the result, the word this has been replaced with the word found, and this one has been replaced, as you can see here, and that one has been replaced, as you can see here, but this one hasn't, because this did not occur in the beginning of the line. If you want to do both the beginning and at the end of the line for all the lines in your string, this is the way you can do it. So you've got the circumflex and then the $sign at the end. Then I have provided a wildcard and made this so that it will capture 0 or more instances of the dot symbol, which represents any character, including spaces. So if I get a match, I'm going to replace the whole thing. So this is going to replace the entire line. So for example, this one and this one, this is going to be a match, so it's because it starts with a this and line. So let me just run it. That's a match, and that's going to replace the entire line with the word found. However, the last two lines did not get matched because you don't have this in the beginning of the sentence, and well, even though you had the line at the end of the sentence, and in the third one you had the this in the beginning of the sentence but lines at the end of the sentence, and therefore that wasn't a match. So that's how you can use the multi-line option prefix. So let's move on to position and length. So I've got an example here. So this is a plain example without the position and length option. So what this is going to do when we do pull out the result into output variable is that it's going to capture everything that has been matched, so including ABC to XYZ, and that's exactly what we're going to get out of the string that we put in. But if you use say for example this example here, where I have put in a position and length or position mode in our regex pattern, what this is going to get us when we put in the output variable like this is that this is going to get the length of the match. So the length of the match is going to be all of this, which is going to be, let's count it, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16, and therefore we're going to get a number of 16 because the output variable has been converted into the length. Now if you want to get the position of the match, so that what you can do is you can use the default way the function works. So you can assign the output into output var parse or any other variable name that you give it, and that's going to give you a position of 4, which is going to be 1 2 3 4, and here is our beginning of the regex pattern match. Now if you have a sub pattern like this, so this is going to capture everything between ABC and XYZ only, so ABC, and it's going to capture all these numbers. If you want to get the position of that and the length of that sub pattern, this is the way you can do it. So we've got a parent level output variable name here, and this is the only sub pattern. This is going to be sub pattern 1, right? How you can get the position is you add to the end of the output variable name pause and number 1 to represent the first pattern match, and sub pattern match, and length, and 1 to get the length of that sub pattern. So if I go ahead and run this, my first message box will be the length of the string from ABC to XYZ, and then the number 4 represents the beginning of the match, and then the next one is number 7, which is the length of a position of the sub pattern. So that's going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and then the next one is 10, which represents numbers from 1 to 9 plus 0, so that's why it's 10. So I've got one more example here where I'm using a name in one of my sub patterns, and I'm demonstrating to you in this example how you can use this name to get the position and length of that sub pattern too. So this is how you do it. So my parent level variable name is going to be subpad this time, and I have 3 sub patterns, and I converted this into position mode. So the first pattern is this, second pattern is that, third pattern is going to capture the date, and in the third sub pattern I have given it a name of date, and therefore when you get the position and length of the previous 2 sub patterns, you just put in subpad, which is the variable name, and then followed by pause if you want the position, and then the position of the element within the pseudo array. So this first match, so this you put in number 1 here, and then the number 2 for the second, and then the third one, instead of putting in pause 3 and length 3, because I have given it a name, you can go subpad pause date, subpad length date, in order to get the position and length of the matched sub patterns. All right, so let's move on to the objects, match objects. This, like I said, converts your matches into a object, so which is called matched object or match object. And by providing this prefix like in this manner, you can do things like subpad, square bracket, and 0, which is going to give you the entire match, entire thing that is matched by your regex pattern. And then you can use dot value. So these are called methods in option and objects, and I'm just really demonstrating to you how, because it got converted to objects, you can use the methods that come with the objects in order to get what you want, really. So this is going to get the value of the first item in the object, which is going to be the first sub pattern match, which is today. And this is a different way to get the value in the second, so whatever number you put in here, the second match of the sub pattern, which is going to be this one, right? And the third one is the first, same as the first one. So you can really just change this to, say for example, this, or change this to change sub pattern 2 into value 2 as well. So these are different ways you can access the values. So if I go ahead and run it, I will get as my first result in the message box our subpad 0, which is the entire matched pattern, and then the sub patterns after that. So sub pattern 1, 2, 3 are represented in the message box, as you can see. You can also give these a name as well. So in this example, I have given this sub pattern a name, and you can therefore access the name of the sub pattern through using the object method. So here I've got subpad value, which is going to be the first one, and then the value 2 is going to be is, and subpad dot name. So the name method and the reference number here is going to give me date, because that is the name of the third sub pattern. And this one is going to get me the value of the date, which is going to be this sub pattern, this value. And another way you can access the value of the sub pattern or the thing in the object is to provide the name in this manner to get the value that pertains to that sub pattern named date. So if I go ahead and run it, I get a multi-line message box, and the first one is today, because we have put in a sub pattern of 1, and so that's gonna be the first item in the object. And the second one is, and the name is date, which is the name I've given it to the third sub pattern here. And then the value of the third sub pattern is the date, and this, like I said, is another way to access the same value by going by the name. Now if you want to, say for example, I don't know why you would want to do this, but there is a way. Here is a way that you can find a match, but you don't capture and store it in the object. So the way you can do that is, here we've got our first sub pattern in the RegEx pattern, and in order for you to match it but not capture it, you put in a question mark and followed by a colon. In this way, this attempt to access the first element within the object to get the value of it is going to fail, and we can see that by running the message box. We don't have anything in the first line within the message box, and that we can see because the second one is, and that is this one, because that is the second sub pattern which found the match of is. Okay, so if I remove this bit and run it again, we are going to get the match here, right? Today and followed by is. So if you put in the question mark followed by colon, then you're going to get you're not going to capture and store it into the object. All right, the rest of it is the same. So value 3 is accessing this pattern, which is also named date, so you can access it by using date. Now there is a documentation for match object where you can follow and see object methods. So I have shown you the name and how to get the value, but there's also a way to get the position, length, and the count of the sub patterns. And then there's a few other methods that you might want to try if you are interested. Alright, so this marks the end of the regex pattern, and in the next video I'm going to go through regex replace and a lot of examples and some other useful features of regex replace as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.